UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, well, he's got a habit of hiring talented Australians to get big jobs done. Don't forget, it was an Australian strategist, Isaac Levito, who masterminded his 2019 general election win. Johnson has also called on his good mate, former Prime Minister Tony Abbott, to join the revamped Board of Trade once they left the EU. It needed to be a grown-up nation once again. Now he's tapped former Australian Foreign Minister Alexander Downer to conduct a review of the UK's border force and help get the illegal immigration crisis in the English Channel under control. Alexander Downer joins me now from London. Well, Alexander, big ask. More than 28,000 illegal immigrants have crossed the Channel last year. As many as 40,000 are expected to do so this year. You have a big job on your hands, haven't you?
Well, it's one aspect of the job that they've asked me to do. It's a broader job than that, but there is that specific issue. But there's a review of the whole of the border force operation right across the board. So including queues at Heathrow Airport, which Australians from time to time have endured. The issue of bringing freight into the UK post-Brexit. So there are quite a lot of issues involved. But certainly as far as what they call the small boats issue, yes, that will be an interesting question to address. So I haven't started work on that really at this stage, so I'll have to look at a whole raft of different legal and technical issues before I really understand what could be done.
Well, it's a positive in the sense it sends a signal. I'm reading it as a signal that Boris Johnson's getting serious and these distractions are being put to one side and he's getting back to core business.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So looking at the British political scene more broadly, there has been a huge focus for the last few weeks on this issue of Partygate, which I guess your viewers will be more or less familiar with. But Boris Johnson and his government are now really focusing on lifting all of the residual COVID restrictions this week. The main restriction being that people are supposed to self-isolate for a minimum of 5 days if they contract COVID. So lifting that final restriction. And of course, they're dealing with the Ukraine-Russia issue day by day as well, putting a huge amount of energy into that. So I think from the public's point of view, there's a sense that the government, in particular the Prime Minister, are getting on with the job now rather than just being consumed by Partygate. But Partygate isn't over for Boris Johnson, but nevertheless, the fire of the controversy is beginning to subside.
Yes, of course, we're waiting for that police report to land, but Ukraine's capturing the news here in Australia, as you might imagine, as it is around the world. What can you tell us? Where's this headed, do you think?
Well, I mean, President Biden said that the Russians would invade last Wednesday, so that didn't happen. So we get reports every day, including from the UK, that the Russians are about to invade, and the Russians continue to say they're not about to invade. So what do I think overall? I think it's much less likely than likely they will invade because it's not really, if you like, a sustainable policy. It will lead to huge Western sanctions, which will damage the Russian economy and damage President Putin politically within Russia. And secondly, it's one thing to invade Ukraine, but to hold it indefinitely, that would become a very, very difficult task as well. I think what the Russians are much more likely to want here is to want to guarantee that countries on the border with Russia, in particular Ukraine, never join NATO, because they have much more of a fear of the West based on their history of German, French and Swedish and other invasions over the centuries. That we don't really understand their fear of the West. But remember, in the Second World War, in the war against Germans, mainly the Germans, the Russians lost 20 million people. So it's a very defining issue for them. And absurd as it seems that the West would ever think of attacking Russia, their answer is, well, it's happened in the past. So the objective here is to keep you to Finlandize Ukraine, and they're likely to be successful, I suppose.
I'll leave it there. I'm sorry, but good luck with your job. And when that report lands and you solve the conundrum for Boris Johnson, I'll be sure to talk to you again and see how you did it. Alexander Downer, thank you for your time.